Welcome back to Eye on South Asia. Sanjiv, we have a political story here.
We're going to have a new CG, right? Hopefully by now we got new CG at India Consulate because Prabhu Dayal has retired. And now we're going to have a new Deputy CG, Deputy Consul General, who is Miss Devyani Khobragade.
Right,
she's actually a doctor by profession.
Right.
So it's a Dr. Devyani Khobragade.
Yeah. She has a lot of different positions that she's held over the years. She's worked in Indian political missions in several countries like Pakistan, Italy, Germany.
But most important, she's an Indian Foreign Service Officer.
Yes, exactly.
That's a big title.
So she's actually taking the place of Pramod Kumar Babaj.
Right, if you remember, we talked about that. He got promoted as a CG to some small country.
Sudan.
South Sudan, right, exactly.
Yeah. That's actually the world's newest nation, by the way.
And the smallest country, I think.
Right.
Yep.
So, yeah, like you said, Dr. Devyani, she's a medical doctor. She's also worked as director for the consular passport and visa offices and at the Ministry of External Affairs.
Exactly.
So, taking on a new position there.
And we wish Dr. Devyani Khobragade all the best. And make sure you watch Eye on South Asia. And one day we would like to have you on our show as a guest.
Absolutely.
Talk about how actually passport services work.
That would be great to learn.
Right. And how is visas processed.
Yeah. Okay. So we have some really good news here in the East Coast. Two university students.
Yes.
A Princeton University engineering student and a Yale student have been selected as 2 of 14 prestigious Churchill scholars. Yep. And these students, Aman Sinha and Kavita Anandalingam. Aman Sinha is from Princeton University and Kavita is from Yale. They'll be attending the University of Cambridge next fall with a full ride scholarship, tuition, fees, everything paid. It's a great opportunity for them. They're actually kind of promoting these science and engineering fields here.
The Winston Churchill Scholarship, first awarded in 1963, are granted to students of noted achievements who wish to pursue graduate studies in science, mathematics, or engineering. And this is all expense paid for the 1 year.
Right.
So congratulations to Aman Sinha and Kavita Anandalingam for getting this Winston Churchill scholarship.
Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on like really building math and science fields in more recent times. Right. That we've been talking about even with visas. So it's another opportunity for them to grow.
We wish them all the best.
All right, so we actually had a lot of fraud stories last time, if you remember.
Yes, of course I remember. You want me to name them, all of them?
Well, there was the Jersey City credit card scam.
And it was 100 million last week, now it's a 200 million.
Right. Is it 200 million?
Yes, that's what I read.
It's about 150.
I read somewhere 200 million, seriously.
Okay, sure.
So, it's going up. Maybe next week it will be a higher number.
Right. So we also had the Detroit healthcare scam.
Yes.
This week back in Chicago, we have a green card investment fraud. This time, the person charged is 29-year-old Anshu Sethi. He's been fraudulently selling more than $145 million in securities and $11 million in administrative fees from about 250 investors from China.
This is absolutely a mastermind scam. Seriously. I mean, this is not usual scam where there is a Medicare, Medicaid, credit card. This is a mastermind scam done by only 29-year-old Anshu Sethi.
Right.
And then you try to cheat Chinese. That is the most difficult thing to do.
Well, these are Chinese investors,
I know.
And they actually believed that this guy, Anshu's company, is financing this big, high-profile hotel in Chicago.
And you know what that hotel is? World's first zero-carbon emission platinum LEED certified hotel and conference center.
Right. So it sounds all great. And basically, Anshu told these investors that by putting money in this project, into this domestic project in the U.S., they're actually going to be kind of paving their way to U.S. citizenship.
Well, there is a U.S. law that if a foreign company wants to invest $500,000 to $1 million into the U.S. economy or businesses, they are entitled to get a green card.
Right.
So that's how he basically, convinced investors that invest money into his projects, which were two projects, one called Chicago Convention Center, or Chicago Convention Center,
right.
ACCC, and Intercontinental Regional Center Trust of Chicago. So he convinced them to invest in any one of these two companies in order to get a green card later on.
Right. And throughout this whole process, Sethi has been saying that he has like 35 years in experience in real estate, and he has all these documents and things that he has actually falsified. So now the Securities Exchange Commission is after Sethi, and he, for fraudulently selling these, these securities and fees that these investors have.
He didn't have a 35 years of experience because he himself was 29 years old.
Of course. Yeah.
But the project's developer had 35 years of experience, despite being set up only in 2010. I don't know. The
numbers just didn't add up in this case.
But it is absolutely a mastermind.
Yeah. So now he has a temporary restraining order and assets freezed on him right now. We don't really know what he's being, how much he's being charged and all that stuff. So it's not only Sethi who's into immigration fraud.
This is another one. This is quite a common, though. I must say that.
Yeah.
This happens a lot in the world of religion. In the name of religion, I should say. In the name of religion, this happens a lot. And this time it happens to be a priest of a Wisconsin temple, Mr. Sagar Sen Halder, known as Gopal Haridas, 31 years old. And what he did is basically he applied for visas under R1 religious status, right?
Religious workers coming
religious
to the
workers
US.
Status.
Yeah.
And then he applied for multiple people, and then he would sell these visas or the rights to people in India, Indian nationals.
Right.
And here it would be mentioned in the application that they would come here in the US and work either at Wisconsin temple or the other temple to provide religious services for the community.
Right. And he's been selling these visas. He would charge as much as $30,000 each, and these people would pay in cash from India.
An installment, half, I think 50% before leaving from India, and then a balance
and then the
after
rest,
coming.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Guess what they did? They didn't know nothing about religion, or nobody wanted to be a priest, but they ended up working in the convenience stores and the motels, and they would make money and eventually pay to this Mr. Sagar Sen Halder, known as Gopal Haridas.
Yeah, so this priest, he was actually, on a trip back from India to the U.S. in O'Hare Airport in Chicago, and, authorities had found in his luggage, he had all these IDs, passports, documents with information about Indian nationals, and, Homeland Security got involved, and they were trying to investigate what else he's done.
He was charged in 2010. Investigation began in 2008, and that only after the immigration office noticed that Mr. Sagar Sen Halder or Gopal Haridas had submitted multiple applications. So this shows, it's like a greed never ends. He had put in multiple applications for R1 visa,
right? And
obviously that's when their eyebrows got bigger. He doesn't have any big religious organization, or he's not part of any big religious entity or something like that, not even a huge temple. So something's fishy, something doesn't make sense, and that's when investigation began. And then authorities waited for him to come back from India in 2010, and sure enough, there were documents and ID cards that he was selling. Amazing.
Right. Yeah, it's a shame, when people can't really trust this temple, because he actually was claiming to be the head of this Gaudiya Vaishnava society. That's one temple in Milwaukee, and who knows what kind of fraud was going on in the temple as well.
Mr. Gopal Haridas is scheduled for sentence on February 24th, and after that, in our show after 24th show in ION South Asia, we'll let you know.
Yep, we'll be finding out those details. All right, so these two that we covered, they're, you know, that's kind of a fraud.
And that's not the end of it.
Yeah,
that's
not the end of trouble.
This actually goes higher, you know, step above.
Right.
As somebody that you wouldn't, I wouldn't say that you wouldn't imagine, but somebody would come as a surprise, as a shock rather.
Mm-hmm. So in Canada,
yes,
a man by the name of Sukh Dhaliwal, he is actually the former Indian-Canadian Member of Parliament. He is also a Liberal Party candidate of British Columbia. In the upcoming provincial election, he is actually, you know, in trouble now because he is being evading corporate tax for his company.
He kind of, you know, he totally neglected. He never followed up with it. It's, and we're talking, it's not only 1 year. I think, you know, it's from 2004 to 2010.
Right.
And for each year's tax returns notices that the tax not filed, and each year he was sent up notices. Personally, he had received notices, and still he ignored it.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, you know, he goes up there
essentially,
and
you know, the issue is being brought out into public now, and he's forced to deal with it in public as a political candidate. So now he has been forced to kind of step down from this candidacy, and he's announcing that he's not going for it, you know, for...
And in case if you're familiar with these territories in Canada, Dhaliwal was a Liberal MP for Surrey, Newton, North Delta from 2006 until 2011, and that's when he lost election to the New Democratic Party's candidate.
Yeah.
But now he has resigned, and he said that he was not actually being forced to resign, but he wanted to do it because his family asked him to quit.
Right. So that's unfortunate. Back in Manhattan, actually, we have one very tragic story. It's the cab driver from Bangladesh. This actually happened earlier this year. It was about a month ago. His name was Mir Hussain, and he was killed after a speeding SUV hit him while he was just standing in front of his taxi. Yep. This is just bizarre and puzzling, but you know, it just makes you think, like, how safe these streets are in Manhattan, just walking along or standing by your car.
When the death is coming, right? When it's calling you, it's no matter where you are, and you know what situation that is. It just happens, and he was just standing right by his cab, not in the middle of the road, nothing like that.
Well, actually, his cab was double parked. Right. So this happened near East 26th, near 3rd Avenue. Right. So the SUV hit the back of his taxi, and the taxi, his own taxi, hit Hussain, and he, you know, had fallen and had died on the spot. And of course, he, you know, he's been estranged from his family. Really, he has like his family back in Bangladesh, and he's been separated from them from all these years. He actually had a roommate who was also a cab driver, and he was also involved in an accident.
Where his leg was amputated.
Right.
And they lived together for 6 months. I mean, it's a friend story, and both of them got into kind of different, really freaky accidents. One had to have his leg amputated. He's alive. And this one, Mir Hussain, just like you said, that he went up in the air and he died right on the spot.
Yeah. It's terrifying and very tragic. So, you know, what can you say about Manhattan streets and safety? You know, it's a toss-up almost, you know.
And this happened around 2 a.m.
Yeah.
This, you know, this driver, I think, speeding or something, whatever it is, but it happened around 2 a.m. Double park is okay, but double park, I'm sure there must be a room for a vehicle to go by, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, all of these cases have to be hit and run when you have, you know, these sorts of accidents. So Sanjiv, we actually, speaking of a scary tragedy that we just covered, we have an update on the Urooj Khan story.
So who did it?
Who did it? We might be getting closer to this question.
I just want to know who did it
Sanjiv.
and how.
Okay, so the Chicago lottery winner who was murdered, he was poisoned. You know, they found cyanide in his blood.
Right,
they were first calling it a, you know, natural death, and now they're calling it a murder. Now, Urooj Khan's brother has come out, and he says that he is the one who actually tipped the police to say, you know, revisit this case, exhume his body, conduct an autopsy. There's something fishy about this.
Till now, police were saying that they had received a tip from one of the family members. They never said it was Urooj Khan's brother. So now, slowly by slowly, I think this complicated case, and I think it continues its complicacy. Now, Urooj Khan's brother said that he made that phone call.
Right, and what's interesting is, he's coming out with all these details where he's saying he had dreams and premonitions, I guess, of this kind of happening, and he even says in one account that he had a dream of Urooj Khan's wife and her father, the father-in-law. So he's kind of suspecting these two. He says that Urooj Khan's wife was his biggest enemy.
You're right.
So that's where this case stands right now. It's interesting as it goes on, but there's a lot of fighting in this family. Again,
I like to point out, Mr. Urooj Khan died without a will, and I think his assets worth about $2 million. And his wife, Shabana Ansari, has hired a criminal defense lawyer, and she is fighting for it that his assets should be transferred to her name.
Yeah. So, very interesting case. We're going to be following it as it goes along.
Right.
And that's all the stories we have for this week. Keep watching us week after week on Crossings TV. Eye on South Asia can also be found on YouTube and Facebook. Just search for Eye on South Asia. So, until next week, I'm Bhavna Vanan signing off. See you next week.
And I'm Sanjiv Pandya. In next week's episode, we're going to have more stories involving South Asians in the USA or Canada, whether it's a fraud, whether it's achievement, whether it's a political announcement, whatever it is, we bring you right here on Eye on South Asia.
And after the break, we have Anjali Sharma on Personality of the Week. She's going to be speaking to Dr. Devyani Khobragade. She has just been elected to Deputy Consul General of India. Stay tuned.